Good morning. This is the Ad Hoc Transition Committee meeting for the Commission on Police Practices for Friday, November 19th. It's 9:33 a.m. I'm Brandon Hilpert. I'm going to be leading this meeting on behalf of Doug, who had a family death, and so he will not be chairing today. I'm just going to do roll call based upon the attendee list. As I said, I'm Brandon Hilpert. I'm the chair of the commission, and I'll be hosting the meeting today. We have our interim executive director, Charmaine Mosley. We have commission member Diana Dent, commission member Patrick Anderson, who's also our chair of outreach. And then we have community member Kate Yavandetti. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment received.
Okay. I'm going to quickly go over the updates. If you want, I can pull up the agenda and share it on the screen, but there's not a lot on the budget process so far. I know we're going to be working on trying to come up with next year's budget shortly, so we'll be working on that. Staffing, as I think we mentioned last week, our new hire, I believe, is going to be trying to start, I believe it was December 20th. Is that correct? Yeah. So we're still working with the city to try to get that whole process taken care of, hopefully kind of pre-order her laptop and all that kind of stuff so we have it in time. There was an email. Sorry,
yes, the laptop has been ordered. I don't know what's happening in the dock. So hopefully she'll have it in time for when she begins.
That's always helpful. The next one is the deputy executive directory. That's going to be our community engagement coordinator position. There was an email that went out, I just saw this morning before the meeting, about our executive search process. So we'll be following up on that to kind of see what's going on. We did get a template from the city that they've used in the past. We're trying to keep it under the $25,000, and because this is not quite as extensive as a search, it's like perhaps like an executive director type level. We're hoping we can keep it under that $25,000. The implementation ordinance and permanent standard operating procedures. Charmaine, do you have any updates on that? I know the city council or city council district 4, they've begun the engagement with their outside attorney. Henry Foster made a comment at the CAB meeting and talked a little bit about that. So I think that's something they're starting. And if I remember right, they're hoping to have it early next year, I believe is what I think I heard on the meeting. I think it was like January something. So other than that, I don't have any updates on that yet. I have questions.
I mean, let me just add to that. I missed the last meeting, so I don't know if you talked about this, although the minutes say I was there, I wasn't there at your last meeting. And in the last two things that I've heard Henry say is January or February. And I think it was at the meeting before last that he promised that we would have it ahead of time before it went to the January, whatever that date is, PSNLN meeting, so that there could be comment on it. And that's our hope. And we hope it doesn't spill into February.
Yeah, I think everyone is hoping that we get this moving quickly. I think all of us have expressed frustration that it's taking as long as it has.
Including the mayor, by the way.
Yeah.
The mayor has met with some of us and has expressed the same frustration. And the other thing that I was told, which is sort of part of this, is, we're also part of CPAT. Folks know what that is. Anyway, it's a coalition. Anyway, the coalition of a number of groups around police issues, and they have put together the Protect Ordinance, and they were told that this independent council is going to also review that, but they will not get to that until they're done with reviewing our implementation ordinance, which strikes me as very odd because, attorneys can do two things at once. But anyway, that's what CPAT has been told. So apparently they are starting on us.
Got it. Thanks. For the office space update, we did have a meeting, I think we talked about this before, with Gensler, which is kind of the city's space planning, and I think also maybe construction too. We had a meeting with them. They gave us a preliminary estimate to get that done. So we're working on getting that PO issued, and then they gave us a kind of a rough draft of kind of the space planning and how we'd add a couple walls, change some cubes over to offices. So we'd have interview rooms, some meeting rooms for teams, And then we'd also have offices enough for the potential staff. One of the things we were talking about was kind of breaking it out into 2 phases. So we can have a phase for this year to get our immediate needs done. And then we can see what it's going to cost for perhaps next year once we actually start to hire the rest of the commission staff. And then we can put that into our budget for next fiscal year. So we're working on that. I think Charmaine's already put the PO request in, or maybe we're waiting for the invoice from Gensler first, and then we'll put the PO request in.
Yes, yes, we have to receive.
It's like $3,100. It's not a huge amount of money.
Yes, we have to receive the invoice first before we can start the PO.
But it looks good. I mean, I think the idea is we'll take, if you guys have been in the existing space, it's a little dated. So one of the things we're going to try to do is replace all the carpet in there and also have a fresh coat of paint put on the walls. So at least the office space looks presentable for when people come in there. And the other thing we're doing is we're kind of converting that front lobby area to have it be a more presentable lobby. And then also have, you know, the kind of like, if you remember the old office space we had, I can't remember what the building was, the old executive complex, maybe?
Executive complex.
There was like a door, and then the entrance door, and then there's like another kind of security door before you actually went to the offices. We're going to be setting up something similar to that as well. Standing rules. I don't have any updates off that. I don't think there are any. Charmaine, are you aware of any?
No.
Okay. Patrick, I know you've always been doing community outreach stuff. Is there anything you want to talk on?
Not right now, no.
Okay. And then the legal counsel contract, the review of
I'm
the
sorry,
RFP.
there's
Yep.
one thing.
Okay.
I did an event earlier this week with the UCSD School of Medicine med students group. And they invited me as a faculty member on campus. But one of the things that came up, so they're working on therapeutic responses to people who have experienced police violence or witnessed police violence. And they incidentally came to our roundtables, a lot of them. They're very engaged in this process. So one of the things I offered them is to work with them to develop some training on clinicians, especially in emergency rooms, but also just everyday clinicians who meet with people. If they hear about or if they witness an interaction with the police, essentially training doctors to know how to assist their patients in filing a complaint. There's not a lot of NACOL information on this, but it seems like something that's really important. There's some NACOL info, but not a lot. And so I'm going to start working with one of the faculty members over there and a couple of the interns to get them information on how to do that. And also, they didn't know, for example, that doctors can file third-party complaints. And so I talked a bit about that, because doctors will witness these encounters. And I also talked about how doctors could be active witnesses when officers are in a clinical space in an emergency room. And I talked in general terms about the kinds of evidence that are helpful to an investigation that doctors and nurses might be in a perfect position to record. I did convey to them, I said, as usual, can't talk about anything specific, but there have been a number of cases where we know that a nurse was present or a doctor was present or a paramedic was present, but the investigators didn't interview them and then didn't have a compelling reason why they wouldn't interview them. And so I said, one of the things that medical professionals can do is be active witnesses and be active about letting PD, Internal Affairs, and the Commission know that they were present and know that they were witnesses. And so they were really interested in this discussion. And over the next few months, we're probably going to start meeting again to talk about what that training could look like. So I'll report back to the Commission and get some help from people as our complaints complaint forms change and so on.
Is it just, training on how to fill out the complaint form? That type of information?
Yeah, but making it specific to people who are working in an ER context, for example. I mean, on one hand, it's easy to train people, if doctors' offices, so not an ER, but just regular doctors' offices could easily have complaint forms on hand, or have a card.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I know in the past we've had partnerships with like different organizations and have given them complaint forms when we had the paper copies. And we did this especially in Albany, New York, when I was the coordinator of that board. It's good to have different organizations, like a list of them that are partners, and they're able to explain the process and to assist those individuals who file a complaint. So that's excellent to hear that you're doing that.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I think the part that I will, a lot of these med students, when they go into their residencies, they do, they cycle through different departments as they're deciding what they want to, where they want to specialize. So they almost always will cycle through psychiatric services and the emergency room department. And for those folks, if for a 5150 call, for example, in a psych clinic or in the ER, when someone is brought to the ER after an encounter and the police are present, if those doctors could be trained, first of all, if the police bring someone to you in handcuffs, then that person, regardless of what they did, regardless of what the situation was, has likely just been subject to a use of force. And that's an opportunity for doctors to provide therapeutic responses to what it feels like to experience a use of force. And just as importantly, as I said before, we see cases that are taking place in emergency rooms, where we view body-worn camera of someone being taken to the ER, and we see that there are doctors and nurses around, and yet they're almost never interviewed as a part of a complaint, those doctors and nurses. So training the doctors to be clear and assertive about being a witness when they know that something is happening is really important from the commission's perspective, I think. Anyway, I'll stop there. It was a really interesting visit, and I'll provide updates as we continue working together.
Can I just add something to that? I mean, this is really interesting to me too, because it sounds a lot like the kind of training that we've done over the years for medical personnel in connection with domestic violence victims, and not just training them how to fill out a complaint, but that they need to have private time with the victim. They don't need to have the abuser there. I mean, whether it's really the abuser or a police officer or whomever, and that they need training to identify, this kind of trauma and PTSD. And I mean, it's a whole, it opens up a whole area of training for people, not only to help victims, but also to present information to the CPP and in general. So thank you, Patrick, for doing that. That's wonderful.
I made a note of that for something for us to follow up on as well. But I think it's a good idea. And like Kate, to your point, social services, child family services, I mean, they probably should be brought into the fold as well. Trying to be respectful of time, just because I know you guys have to leave right at 10:30. Legal counsel contract, the last thing on those items, the RFP process closed last week. I don't know if we know how many bidders we have yet. I believe there were 19 potential bidders. How many of those actually followed through to do a bid? I don't think we have that number yet.
You are correct. We don't have that number yet. I did reach out to PNC and I have not heard back from them yet. as to the number.
Hopefully it's more than one. But once we get those, we'll work on the process. We're still, I don't think we have final approval from purchasing and contracting on who the committee is that will be reviewing that. We proposed it'd be myself, Doug, Charmaine would be on there as well. And then I think we were trying to get, no, Charmaine's going to be, you're going to be an advisor, right?
Yes.
Yes. And then we were, I think, trying to get someone from the
HRC.
thank you. So I think we're still waiting. I was going to say, actually, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say the equity. That's Kim's new job. Anyway, once we get all that approved, we'll move forward on the process of reviewing those bids as they come in. Next time is unfinished business, finalizing the implementation timeline. And I can share the screen real quick. I don't know if you guys all had a chance to look at that yet. I know we went over it in quite some detail. So did anyone have any edits or suggestions they wanted to try to make to this?
Well, I think we're moving through it very slowly. And if you scroll down, I think we got up to, keep going. Pause for a moment. December, May. Is this the updated version that Doug, did he move? Okay, so keep scrolling. Yeah,
he sent this to me for the meeting. So this is his most recent revision.
Keep scrolling. Forget. Okay, we got past this. Pause, please. And keep scrolling. Diana, is this?
That's it.
Did we get to the end of it, Diana? I had to leave at 10:30 last week.
I think we got to pretty much all of this.
Okay.
The hiring of the commission. Yeah, yes, we covered that.
Okay. Yeah, January 24. So I guess we made it all the way to the end.
If I remember correctly, I think Doug was making edits, and then I believe Alina went back in and just made sure everything was in chronological order.
Right.
Yeah. So I think initially during the meeting they were out of date order, and this has been corrected to show them in the timeline.
Right.
So I gave this a quick look, and I didn't have any changes. I know, we've kind of had some debate on exactly what's the best way for us to be able to put those dates in. I think we're trying to be realistic, yet I won't say aggressive, but we're trying to push forward as quickly as we can. But I think we're also not wanting to give the community an unreasonable expectation of when things are going to happen, because it's been just over a year since we had the election, and I think the community feels like not a lot has happened. What's kind of hard is the community doesn't see what's been going on in the background, so that's kind of why we're trying to make sure the timeline kind of highlights those things. Charmaine, go ahead.
I have one minor edit.
Okay.
Scroll up. It says May 2021, hiring of the executive assistant. That was June 2021. So if we can change that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it. So Patrick, I think you said that you were good. You didn't see anything you want to make changes to?
No, I mean, this whole, I just want to say over and over and over again that most of this is not in the commission's control. And
true. Yes.
I mean, we're doing the best we can. Let me say this again, because I said it last week and this is a public meeting and I just want to make sure it keeps being said. This is a very optimistic calendar. I think we're able to fine tune things a bit better now than we were almost a year ago, but it's still very optimistic. And there are all of these failure points within it, where if something takes an extra month, something else is going to take an extra 6 months. The other thing, and this is, I think, really important for people to really absorb and understand, those of us on the committee, as interim commissioners on the commission right now, we are exhausted, stretched thin, with a caseload that is unprecedented, and we don't have a full commission. We can't appoint anybody new until this is all done. And so when the current commissioners look at this, and see that our optimistic projection is that new commissioners won't be appointed. What is it, the end of 2020?
2020.
Can you scroll down, please, Brandon? Is it the end of 2023? No, the end of 20.
Right. Here, January.
Yeah.
So that's a little over a year from now. And when current commissioners, many of whom have been on for so many years that they cannot wait to hand over duties to somebody else, when they hear that in order to stay operable, this commission, we all are going to need to commit to another year of the current workload, uncompensated, in our free time. The people are going to be deeply demoralized by that. And there's a chance that several commissioners will resign because they just can't do it anymore. And the commission will no longer be operable. And so I know I'm not alone, am begging the commission or the city council, begging for some interim measure that would allow temporary replacements with an expiration date, not for the temporary people, but for the appointments, to be appointed, just to get us through this period. And again, none of this is in our control.
So
Oh,
I 100% agree with you. Just, I have started the process of drafting a memo that I will be sharing with the commission, and obviously we'll discuss it at an open meeting. And basically it's letting the city council, the mayor's office, understand and know that the workload is higher. We have fewer people to do it. And as you pointed out, we're all volunteers. Many of us have full-time jobs, and the burnout is getting high. And I think, to be honest, that's part of why I think people are slowing down on their reviews, is because it's not sustainable. So I wanted to have the commission review that memo before obviously it goes out. We need the commission to review it. So it won't be in the open meeting next week, but unfortunately we don't have an open meeting in December, so it'll probably be in January. But I do want to get that out because I think it's important. We keep talking to the city council about that, but the impression I get, I think they feel like, well, if it's not a problem, we're not going to make any changes. And I know Monica Montgomery Stepp's office, politically, I don't think they want to add anyone prior to the full implementation ordinance, but I think it's at least our responsibility to let them know why we think it's important and why we advise it.
so, and let me just add also that we did have 18 commissioners. One recently resigned. And so that brings us down to 17. And then with that said, we have 2 commissioners who are not really active. So we're really operating off of 15 commissioners. So with the increased caseload and 15 commissioners, it's not feasible. So we have to think about ways to.
I think the message needs to be sent that this is not, not only that it's not sustainable and we're all volunteers, it needs to be said very plainly that if people continue to resign, there will be no oversight of the San Diego Police Department until the full until new commissioners are appointed. None. And that needs to be placed on the desk of the city council so they understand, yes, politically, I understand you don't want to appoint new people, you want to do this right. I'm fully behind that. But one of the unintended repercussions of that is that you're going to create a situation where for a good, let's say 6 months or a year, there is no oversight of the police department. And that's going to be on your doorstep.
Well, and again, we all, I think, know this, but just because anyone who watches this from the community, it's going to create a circular spiral down. The more people we have that resign, the more work it is for the existing members, which means they're going to get more overloaded as it is. And then they're going to be more likely to be like, you know what, I can't do this. This isn't what I signed up for. And we'll have more resignations, which makes it even harder. So, once that starts, I don't think we're going to be able to stop it. And I'm concerned I was concerned a year ago when we brought this up and we made the proposal to city council and they chose to kind of do it all in one piece. Doug, I think, made up a very strong case as to why we wanted to break it off into two pieces. And I think we need to do that again because, if we get, as Charmaine said, we have a couple commissioners who are kind of like on part-time status, for lack of a better word, where they're reviewing cases, but not very quickly.
And then we have some who are not communicating at all, so
Right.
that are absent. So
So I would actually say instead of it being like 15 active commissioners, we're really probably more like 11 or 12.
mhm.
So as it is, those 11 or 12 commissioners are right now doing the work of the whole commission, which should be 23 people.
Yes.
So, and it's not fair to those volunteers. And I know the city always tells us you're the hardest working commission. That's great to hear, but my point is you need to be able to back it up. We can't let volunteers continue to get burnt out to the point where they're like, I can't do it, I'm out. And then we're behind the eight ball and no one wants that. So
Well,
Patrick,
and
you raised it
just-
perfectly. And yeah,
Just to like demystify this a bit for the public and for the city council. So the way that this works is, I mean, we are already beyond capacity. It's unsustainable. It's unbearable now. So there's nothing that's sustainable. The issue is when we have what, over 70 cases total on our docket right now?
It's going back up to over 80.
Over 80. I mean, now I'm mad again. So the way that we prioritize our work is when a team gets cases, the first thing we try to look at are cases where there are sustained findings from IA. That's how we focus because of the 1-year deadline. The problem with that is that in case, if IA exonerates findings in cases that the commission is going to disagree with, that case doesn't get prioritized because it's not listed as having sustained findings. So already we've got a situation where we're prioritizing sustained findings and potentially missing cases where there aren't sustained findings, but the commission thinks there should be, and the community would probably think there should be. So it's already, we're already in a state of deeply weakened oversight of SDPD. And it is, as Brandon said, it is only going to get worse. And I hope City Council watches this meeting, and I hope the public watches this meeting to understand the situation we're in. And, Brandon, Charmaine, you are absolutely right. With every person who drops off, the workload goes up for those of us who are working.
I'm trying to promote Tiffany Harrison from D4 into this meeting. However, it's not.
Yeah, I tried to do it as well, and it doesn't seem to be taking. I don't want to go too crazy on this. I think we all agree. Like I said, I'm going to draft a memo. I will share that with the commission. We can make suggestions and edits, and then the plan is to send it to the mayor and the city council because I think it's important for them.
But Brandon, I think the
what the issue
timing is off here. If you can't bring something by the end until our open meeting at the end of January, that's 2 months away. Is there not a way to?
We could call a special meeting.
I don't think that's going to happen. It's the holidays, but
right. But that's
without,
yeah.
Is there a way for this to be without an official memo happening? Is there a way for this to be brought to a conversation with the mayor and the city council, or can we elevate this in some other way?
We've already had conversations with many of the city council members. I personally had a conversation with the mayor. I'm in District 3. I had a conversation with Steve Whitburn, our city council person, and I've shared our concerns. So they are at least aware from a high level. I do want to formalize it, and typically, if it's my opinion, if it's not written down and it's not there, it can get ignored. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know we have a lot of stuff and we only have about 27 minutes left. So for the timeline, I think we were all good. Diana, did you have any last minute edits? I think we're good. Okay, see her shaking her head. Patrick Bray said he's good. I'm good. Kate, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Nope. Charmaine?
Yes, there is another edit.
Okay, let me share it again.
Hiring of the Assistant Executive Director, it says July 2021. That has not happened yet.
Oh, got it. I don't even know what date we'd want to put in there. I'm thinking it's probably gonna be early next year, is my guess.
I don't think
I'm
it's gonna be early. Well, are you thinking maybe March or April?
I would hope it'd be by March, but
Because we would have to have the contract with the search firm. That has to go out. Then interviews.
yeah, you're right. Okay. I'll move that down and put it in the correct order.
Thank you.
I have a question. You also have down here December 2021, February 2022 selection and hiring of Deputy Executive Director, Director of Community Engagement. Is that the same position?
Oh, that's the same one. So we should cross out.
So I
the
think
one-
if you just eliminate
Yeah,
the
just
first
cross
one,
out- Yeah, cross out that top one.
Sorry, which one? The one I have highlighted is the top one?
Yes. Cross out the highlighted one. And then I think, the December through February is pretty optimistic.
Okay.
Yeah, we're already at the middle of November, so.
Should we change this to say to March?
I would say March, April. We need to push that back.
Okay. Got it. All right. So we're good on that one. The next item, let me pull up the agenda real quick. All right, so for new business, this I believe was something Kate had initially proposed. We wanted to discuss our officers placed under oath during the investigatory process. What are the consequences for being untruthful or not fully responsive?
Let me just suggest that due to time, that we skip MC. It's gonna be on next week's
Okay,
open meeting agenda.
Yeah, you're right, we've got like 25 minutes. Well, let me share the list of our recommendations to the city. Okay. So I think after the last meeting, Doug pulled all this stuff together, kind of merged and tried to make it kind of one cohesive document. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to review any of this beforehand. Excuse me, but I know you guys probably have spent a little bit more time on this than I have, since Doug has been our fearless leader in this regard. But do you guys want to add anything, make any changes? The idea here is this is going to be on the agenda for our open meeting next week, next Tuesday, and we'll be discussing it in front of the full commission. And then after that, we'll be sending a memo to the city council with what our recommendations are.
Can you scroll down, please?
Sure.
The first two bullet points we got through a while ago,
Okay.
and we had all voted to approve that. So pause there, please. Yeah, so the third one is about the commission actually doing the selecting of and the nominating of the executive director. Independent legal counsel is the next bullet point. Oh yeah, the next one is just technical, that our bylaws and standing rules should be at the explicitly stated as being at the discretion of the commission without city council approval. That's how things are now. Investigations, yeah. Yeah, so it's this bullet point crossover that Kate's question is related to, about the subpoena power for investigatory proceedings. And I know we're not talking about that question this week, but the voters ordinance actually has some very clear guidance based on legal precedent and practice, that includes being in contempt of court if someone doesn't appear. It basically, what happens is we then go to a judge to use our subpoena power, and that's where contempt of court is adjudicated. And then I think everything after this is pretty sketchy because we haven't fully fleshed it out. Can you scroll down a bit more? Obviously, the record stuff and what happens, as we were discussing before this meeting, if the department doesn't comply, is an issue. Yeah, these things we haven't really gotten to in great depth yet. But for now, I think, keep going, Brandon, please. We have sort of indicated that we support these as a committee. Yes. Yeah, that subpoena bullet point is crucial. Keep going. Is that the last one?
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, so these are all, we did vote to endorse all of those. There's obviously not as much detail in each of them as there will need to be. Not from us, I don't think. I think we've done what we can with them, but Diana, do you, or Kate, do you see anything here that either is misrepresentative of our discussions, or can you think of anything that was left off? It's hard to keep a year's worth of meetings in my head.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in going through it. I thought it was a pretty remarkable summary of what this committee has done. And clearly we have to get something to the outside counsel if they're going to be working on this, presumably over the next 2 months.
Yeah, so again, I think the idea, and Patrick, to your point, is I think even though this probably could potentially be fleshed out more, I think what we can also do is at the open meeting with the full commission, we can add to it based upon feedback we get from other commissioners. And then once that's done, we'll draft a memo and send that to City Council.
I will say, in concert with Kate's comment, that it is important we get things to the independent legal counsel as soon as possible. And I'll note that Henry actually from D4 reached out to me to request, I think it was the second or third bullet point. So the language that we actually approved on the appointment, the seats on the commission and how they would be determined and so on. And I know he also reached out about the community, that tracking measure B site, to make sure that all the recommendations from each of those roundtables get forwarded to the independent legal counsel. So I'm hopeful that those made their way to that person.
So I just allowed Tiffany to talk, since for some reason we can't seem to move her to a panelist. But Tiffany, if you have any comments you want to chime in, please feel free.
I think Diana was trying to speak too.
I was just agreeing with Kate that, with the, or do we have enough money? I mean, in terms of what, temporary hire for council to review all of these to get a really good professional review.
Well, I think what I was saying is that the outside counsel that's been hired, this, that Bay Area firm, that we have to get this to that person. I
Yeah.
wasn't suggesting that there be a review from the
Oh.
interim commissions council before it goes to that person. I think that person or firm or whoever's doing it needs to have this to start working on it. My question was going to be, I know that there's a meeting next Tuesday. What if there's not a quorum? Can this still be supported by the interim commission and passed on to the city council and D4?
No.
No.
I think the short answer is no. If we don't have quorum, we can't approve something
Can't do
on behalf of the
business.
commission. But I don't believe from what I've seen so far, I don't think we're going to have a quorum issue for next Tuesday.
Well, I just wondered because the last meeting, it was a substantial wait before it was able to start. So that's why I wondered.
Yeah, and it's this I think also goes back to our issue of why it's important for the city council to actually add commissioners so we're fully commissioned up, so to speak. You know, I know CAB is having similar problems meeting quorum. I know for several months they weren't able to have meetings because they weren't able to have a meeting due to quorum. So we've been fortunate and we've had very few cases where we've had to cancel meetings because of quorum, but and we even changed our rules to allow a change to our quorum numbers based on how many seats we have filled versus how many are available total of 23. But I don't think for our meeting next Tuesday, we should have a quorum issue. But the short answer is no. If we don't have quorum, we can't approve something on behalf of the commission. I think with that, it sounds like we're pretty much in agreement. And Tiffany, did you want to? I'm sure she's still. Yep. Did you want to chime in on anything? You should be able to unmute yourself if you want to talk.
No, I have unstable Wi-Fi, so if I have anything to add, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Let me open up the chat since I'm sharing so I can see just in case. All right, well, with that, I guess we can close this one out. We'll add it to the agenda and share that with the full commission. We've got about 15 minutes left of our meeting today. So let's go back to item A. This is the discussion of officers being under oath during the investigation process. What are consequences if they're untruthful or not fully responsive? Kate, do you want to start off, since I know that was one of the things that you had raised as an important point for us to be aware of?
Well, I mean, it's actually of course, in these proposals that we're hoping will be adopted. I think we probably need more specificity about what accountability is. And if they are untruthful or fail to be fully responsive, or, you know, accountability if they don't testify at all. I mean, I'm sort of thinking about Steve Bannon, frankly, but and I don't know if that's something that we necessarily want to spell out, and I hadn't really thought about what that accountability would be. And is that kind of the question that we're raising today about how we want to spell that out? What does that mean?
I think so, and I think, and I just thought of it now. I probably should have looked at the police department's existing procedures for court-related issues. If an officer does fail to show up for a court hearing, there is an existing discipline associated with that. I would almost argue that this would probably should be modeled the same. So if, you know, say it's like a traffic infraction and an officer fails to show up, they do get, I believe, well, I don't want to say because I'm not sure. There is discipline, and it's more than I believe, you know, a verbal counseling. I think it starts off higher than that, and I'd have to go back. It's been a long time since I looked at that, but I would
Brandon,
say
I disagree with that. I think that the stakes of not appearing to being summoned for this are much, much higher, because if I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't show up for a traffic infraction in court, that has nothing to do personally with that officer. And so the discipline is relatively minor. But if someone, yeah,
So I was gonna say, what I was suggesting is we should probably look at that to see what they've already approved and essentially the POA has already agreed to. And we can model whatever we decide after that. And then figure out how to modify it to make it appropriate for what our needs and our requirements are. But I agree, like if basically you just don't show up for a traffic citation, the citation gets dismissed, you know, it's not really that big of a deal. These cases are obviously much more significant, or probably will be more significant. But I agree. I think with Kate is I think we don't want someone to just get a subpoena to give a statement or an interview and they just choose not to do it. And just like, what are you going to do?
well, the voters ordinance already has language about this, about what happens if someone fails to appear. I mean, I can see if I can find it. Kate, do you remember where it was? It's on page 16 of the voters ordinance, I believe. Oh no, this is. Yeah, it's on page 37 of the PDF of today's agenda. It's item 3 at the bottom of that page. The commission may request that the Superior Court follow the same proceedings and impose the same penalties as in a case of a person who has been found in contempt in the trial of a civil action before the Superior Court. So this is the whole section. You know, if you go up to point 1, if a witness fails to appear before the commission might, by majority vote with proof of service of the subpoena, may petition the Superior Court for an order compelling attendance. And if the person then doesn't show up, then the Superior Court begins contempt proceedings in the same way they do for other situations. Kate, this is what your question was about, right? I mean, I think this needs to go to a legal analyst, you know.
Well, and I guess my second question is whether the commission, in a sense, the commission is proposing discipline. And it's the commission, I believe, under the voters ordinance has the authority to do that.
Right. I think the point of this, though, and Brandon, this is why I disagree about going to the policy that they have for their own things. The whole point of this is that officers who don't participate with the subpoena power of the commission shouldn't be disciplined by the PD.
Right.
They should be disciplined by a judge. And so Measure B takes that and puts it in a legal arena. It's not an administrative discipline issue. It becomes a legal issue because it's a legally mandated subpoena. And that's where I think there's going to be resistance, obviously. But this is something the commission needs to hold firm on. And if it doesn't, then I can tell you right now that it will not fly with the community. It will not fly. It will not fly. I don't know how to sing this hymn louder than I am, but it will not fly. I wonder if we should take this. I mean, so in previous meetings, Doug has sort of excerpted language from the voters ordinance, and we've talked about it, called in a legal analyst. I wonder if we should just, Brandon, today vote to sort of identify this language for consideration at a future meeting in response to Kate's question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm.
Well,
So
I mean, I don't know that it really needs. I mean, you're asking about your counsel reviewing it legally. Do you really think that's necessary? Because it does take it. I hadn't reread this prior to today, but it does take it out of the discipline area and moves it to court. And I would assume that that would be part of any legal analysis if it's put in.
Right, yeah,
If they
you're
agree
right.
to put it in, it would be part of the legal analysis that's being done by outside counsel and would certainly be raised in the meet and confer. So I don't know why you need to pay
No, you're right. I mean,
your
by
own counsel at this
definition,
point.
a subpoena is about the courts. If you limit the sort of discipline for not responding to a subpoena to the agency as an administrative review, then it's no longer a subpoena. It's something else entirely. And so you're right. I don't know, there may be little things here and there that somebody might need to think about, but I guess we could just vote on endorsing this section and sending it to D4 to forward to the independent attorney.
Would that be in addition to this bullet point that's already here? That you already have? Because you already have employees should be held accountable, and then you want to have a whole section about what that accountability is. Can't that just be added to this?
What page is that on, Kate? 13?
Well, I'm just looking at this 2-page thing that we just talked about.
I'm scrolling through it now.
Yeah, I don't know what page it is on the voters ordinance. I mean, if we could stroll down a little bit, it probably would tell us.
It's at the bottom of page 1 of the first page
Right,
of it, top
right.
of page 2. The problem though is that bullet point. So Brandon, this actually is a change I think we need to incorporate, because that bullet point leaves room for this being an administrative review, an administrative discipline rather than an actual subpoena. Yeah, you're right, Kate.
Yeah, it needs to have a lot more specificity about what accountability is.
Maybe if we just add a sentence that said something like,
Well, this actually doesn't talk about subpoenas at all,
that bullet point.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we just add a sentence here that says, because Measure B identified subpoena power for the commission, this accountability or failure to appear or lying under oath would be referred to a superior court judge to adjudicate.
Sorry, which bullet are you wanting to add that to?
So scroll down, right there, the one that bleeds over from page 1 to 2.
Okay.
At the end of that responsive, some language like, because Measure B affords, and then italicized subpoena power to the commission. No longer italicized after subpoena. Failure to appear and or dishonesty under oath shall result in a
Shall we refer to,
hold on,
sorry, go ahead.
shall result in referral of the case to a superior court judge for adjudication.
Can I add, I think it should say failure to appear pursuant to a subpoena, because it doesn't say
Yeah, you're right.
earlier that, yeah. It's a subpoena legally issued, and then the dishonesty is a separate referral.
Yeah. I think that does the trick for now. Kate, are you happy with that? Maybe add the word explicitly before the word affords.
Sure.
And move legally issued before the word subpoena. Diana, what do you think of this language?
Like it.
I don't think it needs to be in parentheses.
Right.
I just did that
Mm.
because it's an edit that I made and I want
Right.
Doug to be able
Oh,
to
I see.
see what the
Mm.
changes are. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'll highlight it so we can see what the changes we made were.
Yeah, I thank you, Kate, for raising
Like
this. I'm
that.
strongly in support of this being here.
Can we change because to since?
Or maybe just leave it out altogether. Just say Measure
Measure
B
B.
Yeah,
explicitly affords us, the subpoena power.
Well, then you need to change the structure of the Senate. So Measure B explicitly affords subpoena power to the commission. Yeah, I think we need because or since. Otherwise, we're gonna have to rewrite. I don't care which one, that's fine with me.
Got it. We're right at 10:30 and 0. Diana and Patrick have to hop off.
Yep.
With that, I think we're good with this edit. I will share this with Doug and kind of let him know what we did on that one.
We didn't formally take a vote on that, but I think we need to
Yeah,
on that new
so
language.
Sharmaine, do you want to officially do our vote of
sure.
3 people?
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes,
Commissioner Dent,
Yes.
Chair Hilbert,
I'll vote yes.
motion passes.
Got it.
so let's
All
make
right, so-
sure we present that document as being unanimously supported by this committee. There wasn't a single no vote to any one of those bullet points. So
Got it. All right. Well, with that, thanks for your time today. I know we were
All
initially
right,
thinking we
have a
could
good-
have 2 hours.
So-
Enjoy everything else you guys are doing. And sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, are we meeting next week or not because of the
No.
holiday? No, okay,
have a good holiday, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
okay, bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.